Carol Chen is software engineer from Jola and community chief and responsible for the global communicating strategy and outreach there. Mattia Nellis from iversity. Is Mattia with us? Or
yes, hello.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear us, Mattia? Yeah. Okay, and Thomas is Tubit from the Research Assistant at Hasso-Plattner Institute and the Internet Technologies and System Group. Shirley Williams, a Professor of Learning Technologies at the University of Reading. Oliver Vornberger, a Professor of Computer Science at the University of Augsburg in Germany. So quite a few of you have been involved in MOOCs in one way or another. Some of you have never been involved in a MOOC. That's a vote so far, so at least everybody can hear and a few people have problems viewing us. Now that we've introduced ourselves, maybe we'll run a quick poll to get a sense of our audience. So that's your chance to introduce yourself back. So you're running that poll now, and so just say whether you're, you can also choose multiple categories, just sort of we get an idea of who's with us today. Okay, so the structure of this the webinar today, the welcome is, well, we're pretty much through the welcome. I won't take too much time myself, and just as after we get the results from that second poll, we'll switch to the other presenters, and each one will give a sort of a short statement on what they see as a potential of MOOCs to enhance employability, what they see as the barriers. So we'll have a quick round of comments from the presenters, and after that we'll open up for questions and answers from the audience. So essentially most of the session will be really based on the questions that you, the participants, bring in. So without further ado, can you throw the results back up again? Sorry. Yeah, just quickly show the results. So, well, we have a good mix of students, recent graduates, developers. I think pretty much quite a lot of others. So I guess we missed all the categories, but overall a good mix of people from all of these sectors. So I'd like to now turn over to you, Michelle, for your statement on, as I said, what is the potential of MOOCs to enhance employability and what do you see as the drawbacks?
Good, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? I can't hear.
I hear you.
Yes, okay, good. So, well, thank you for the introduction. Actually, in 2 or 3 minutes, I'm going to describe a couple of one experiment that we have been doing at Google. Before I do this, we are active in MOOCs with a tool that we launched 2 years ago. The name of the tool is Course Builder. It's an open source software, and we have been pursuing 3 goals with this tool. This tool is allowing to build MOOCs in a very simple way, and the 3 goals that we have been pursuing are development of our own internal MOOCs for our engineers and professionals, MOOCs on computer science, new tools, new techniques, also so-called soft skills, and we have been using this a lot internally. The second goal has been to actually release MOOCs, develop and release MOOCs for our users. So we have released MOOCs such as power searching with Google, mapping with Google, making sense of data, Google Analytics, etc. More than 10 in total, for a grand total of about 500,000 of users. And this has been to actually help people to better use search or maps or other tools. And then, as a third goal, we have been pursuing some experiments with external partners on MOOCs, on massive online open courseware. So this experiment that I would like to report in 1 or 2 minutes has been really aimed at employability. Has happened in Spain, and the partners are a set of universities with some leadership from the University of Alicante. But there are other universities as well, Santander, Murcia, etc. So, end of 2012, the University of Alicante launched UniMOOC, which is a MOOC for young entrepreneurs, for young people which don't have the opportunity to attend university courses, but would like to launch their own business. And this MOOC from UniMOOC, based on our tool, Course Builder, has been very successful. They had more than 35,000 people completing the MOOC. So based on this first success, we actually launched a collaboration with this team of universities and launched in Madrid, from Google Madrid, the program called Activate, which is a set of digital marketing courses. And these marketing courses are covering several things. We started with e-commerce and the use of large amounts of data, so-called big data. And so far, the course has been pretty successful, with more than 80,000 students. There are certifications. More than 12% of them obtained a certification, which was through 13 exams, and many cases they use these certificates in LinkedIn or other social networking tools for related job search. And so this is for us a very encouraging first experiment, and we are still learning from it, obviously, but it's something that we have really enjoyed doing, and which shows that for us there was something there to be pursued, and which could be useful to people wishing to get a degree online or to get some certification online, and then use it for getting a job or getting access to the job market.
Thank you, Michel. That's really interesting. And if you can also type, first of all, you mentioned some. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So I'll pass on to Doug in a minute. And while he speaks, maybe you can just note in the chat the details of the tools you mentioned, and that specific MOOC that you said that people are using as a reference in their LinkedIn profiles and so on. Yeah, people are asking about the names of the projects and so on. So if you can throw that into the chat window. Next, please, Doug, thanks for joining us. Sorry you had some technical issues with Flash. And if you can then, quickly in a few minutes respond to this question of, what do you think, from your perspective, is the potential of MOOCs, and what are the barriers for them in terms of employability? But before that, just one good thing. I remember somebody asked, "What's a MOOC?" And of course, we need to acknowledge that not all the world knows what a MOOC is. So maybe you can start by saying, what is a MOOC, and then say where you stand on this front. Okay, over to you, Doug.
Okay, thanks very much, Yushay. Am I coming through loud and clear? Can you hear me? Okay. Can you hear me? Okay?
Yeah, we hear you. We're here. Okay, and we see your presentation. Okay. So, over to you. Doug? Okay, well, we seem to have lost Doug, so quick improvisation, we'll switch over to Thomas. Hope you can pick up the banner, and oh, is Doug back? No, sorry. Okay, Thomas, so over to you, if you can quickly give a one-line definition of what is a MOOC and tell us where you see MOOCs contributing to employability, where you see the barriers.
Okay, hi, hi everybody, good morning. Yeah, what is MOOC? A MOOC is, the definition is a massive open online course, so it has kind of these four components. It's massive, that means it has a lot of participants. It's open, free for everybody to use without barriers in terms of money or previous kinds of yeah, school whatever prerequisites, and it's online, and the basic of it is a course, so it offers knowledge to or yeah to everybody who has an internet connection and is able to or is interested in the topic. That would be my definition of a MOOC. And I'm from OpenHPI. OpenHPI is the MOOC offer of the Hasso-Plattner Institute. The Hasso-Plattner Institute is a kind of a public-private joint venture in Germany, in Brandenburg, in Potsdam, and it is part of the University of Potsdam, and it's partly privately founded by the Hasso-Plattner Foundation. And we have a couple of offers that bring our that want to get our knowledge outside of the walls of this institute. So we've been working quite long with the tool called Teletask, which offered just the filmed lectures in our offline courses online. And in 2012 we started with OpenHPI, and OpenHPI is, as I said, our MOOC offering, and it's a classical so-called XMOOC. So yeah, and so what we did just recently. So we're not one of the big providers of MOOCs. We're a rather small one, because we only offer our own courses that we also are offering offline on campus, and we have focused on IT related topics, because that's the thing that we're offering here offline as well. And we have courses in German, in English, and we just started to offer courses in Chinese, which are served on a separate platform, which is also located and hosted in China. And so here you can see a couple of these topics that we've been covering until now. So these are all courses that are offered also offline at our university. And oops, content is missing. Okay, so what we did recently was we did a user survey with our within our user base. We have about 50,000 registered users in OpenHPI, and what they we asked them how they see the certificates, how they see our the certificates we are offering. And we ask them, for example, if they think they are too easy to achieve, or if they want to have them a little more difficult. So at the moment, it takes you have to get 50% of all the points that you can achieve within the course to get a certificate. And as you can see, quite a couple of our users are thinking that's too easy, so about half-half. And this was a very interesting question, because we asked, so how should we work on the verifiability of the certificates? Because at the moment we don't know who's doing actually the test. So we have somebody who's the registered user, but who's the one like clicking the boxes? We don't know. So it could be anybody. And quite a lot of people said we're not interested in the certificate anyway, because we have a job already. So that may be a little bit special for our offering, because that was something we found out as well. When we started, we were thinking that we are offering the courses to students mainly, but in the end we found out most of our participants are professionals that have about 5 to 10 years professional experience in their job, and they just want to keep on track with new developments and so on. And one thing we just recently added to our certificates is a way to check if somebody manipulated on it. We still can't check who did it, but now at least we can check that nobody kind of photoshopped it or whatever. And so we also asked if people would be interested in like more verifiable certificates, and if they would like to do proctored exam, and if they would be willing to pay for it also. And like very few people did that. But, and that turns the thing quite a bit around. When we asked, would you add a MOOC certificate to your job application? Most of the people said, yeah, sure, I would do that. I would do it like in that low verifiable way that they are at the moment. You can, I would just add them. I would even add a confirmation of participation, which is kind of telling not very much about your actual proceedings or your progress in the course. They would even add that because they think that these kinds of certificates add a valuable incentive to a job application. And so what we are doing now is we are running a similar survey for employers, and we want to ask them, how do you see that? How do you think? What's your opinion on the value of these certificates without verifiability and all these issues that they have? And we would like to invite all of you to take part in this survey. If you're an employer, take part yourself. If you're employed, ask your human resources department to take part. And that's what I have to say for now.
And you also prepared a survey for us to run now in the session, right? So we'll throw that poll up now and see what the people here think. Yeah? Okay. So what would be the priorities for you as a MOOC participant to attach a MOOC certificate to a job application, right? If you're, especially the people who are reporting themselves as students, recent graduates, or developers, would you consider adding a MOOC certificate in a job application, and under which conditions? So we'll give this a bit of time. Yeah, and Doug, I'm glad you managed to make it back. So while we're asking for, while we're waiting for people to vote, I think we'll flip to your presentation.
Okay, well, I hope you can hear me okay. Can you
Thanks,
hear me?
Thomas, for that. I think that was very, very interesting and sort of very, very important data for us to consider. Do we have the results from the poll? Yeah, so we'll have the results from the poll. Of course, anyone who has any questions to any of the speakers. So we seem to confirm what you were showing from your study, right? So that's I think there's a good match here. It's very interesting stuff. Again, if anybody has any questions to any of the speakers, just throw them into the chat. And we'll bring them up after everybody finishes their presentations. Quickly move on to Doug, and thank you.
Okay, can you hear me okay, Sean?
Yeah, we hear you well, thanks.
Excellent, good. Well, first of all, apologies for connection issues. That was caused by two things. Firstly, I don't usually have Flash installed on my machines, which Spreed needs. And secondly, my neighbour decided to run a concrete mixer this morning, and I work from home. So apologies about that. I had to scramble to find somewhere to connect. It does bring up an interesting issue, though, doesn't it, about people's access to MOOCs and like whether they have a fast enough connection to do some of the things, some of the tasks that's required on MOOCs, whether they have the stability of the connection, whether they have somewhere to work from. As you can see, I'm currently sitting in front of a chest of drawers. This is my little safe space to be able to connect to you today. Do people have a calm, safe space in which they can study? And these are ongoing issues, even in a digital environment. So my name's Doug Belshaw. I'm the Web Literacy Lead for the non-profit Mozilla Foundation. You probably know us best through Firefox, but we're actually a global non-profit, and we focus on keeping the web open and free and kind of non-commoditized. I'm on Twitter as DJ Belshaw, and I always respond to emails, doug@mozillafoundation.org. Okay, so I think the main reason I was asked to participate in this webinar is because Mozilla incubated something called Open Badges. Now, if you haven't seen this, I encourage you to go to openbadges.org and have a look. This has now been actually spun out of Mozilla as a separate non-profit called the Badge Alliance, and this is a new website as of last week, badgealliance.org. And let me just explain what open badges are, because I think that they go together with MOOCs, as Americans would say, like peanut butter and jelly. So this is how open badges work in practice. You can imagine an open badge as being a bit like the kind of badge you'd get from Scouts or swimming, the kind of things that you sew onto your uniform or onto your trousers, like I used to when I was younger. So my son, who's 7, he's in Beavers, he gets a badge for doing a specific bit of work, and he sews it on to show that he's managed to achieve that particular thing. And I think with badges, that's a similar kind of thing, but on the web. And this is an open ecosystem that anybody can issue a badge for absolutely anything else. But because it's using metadata, and I'll explain what that is in a moment, it means that this all works together all over the web. So anywhere where the web works, open badges work. So if someone is issued a badge, they earn the badge, it goes in their badge backpack, they can display it, just like we saw when we were talking about MOOC completion certificates. You can take that badge, be it for participating halfway through the MOOC, the entire MOOC, really engaging with distinction, whatever it is, and you can display that badge anywhere on the web. So, eventually on your LinkedIn profile, Facebook, Twitter, WordPress, your own blog or wiki. I've got some of my blog sidebar, that kind of thing. And then the idea is that just like with the web skills MOOCs, unlocking new possibilities, lifelong learning, and job opportunities as well. But the other tool, which I don't think many people have seen, you might have seen Open Badges, but we've got a brand new tool which kind of came out of the Open Badges work funded by the Gates Foundation. And that's called Mozilla Discover. And this is very much still in its early stages, but this is the thing building upon Open Badges and credentialing and things like nano degrees that have come out recently. I think this is the thing which I really want to focus on in this webinar, which is learning pathways. Because I think that we don't scaffold the learning arc well enough at the moment, especially in digital spaces. So this is just at discover.openbadges.org, and we're going to be using this throughout kind of the Mozilla ecosystem to scaffold contribution and level up people in terms of their learning around web literacy. So let's just take an example. This is a real person, Robert, who's a software engineer at Mozilla. We've done this in healthcare, in technical kind of things, and there's one other one as well I've forgotten. But basically what you can do is, and this is a very early kind of prototype, you can drag and drop different things that you've done. The learner's always in control, and you can drag and drop different things to show that a pathway, either that you want to complete, or you can take another pathway that someone has said that they've done, and you can pledge for it. So you can see this person has done like hard skills, like around Python and that kind of thing, but also softer skills. So curious cat, you know, really like feeding their curiosity around things. There's another one for working well with other people. So kind of softer skills, and you can see how those pathways aren't usually just a straight line, but sometimes they meander and change as well. So I think that's a really important thing to capture, and something which we'll be working on much more. So this is an example of the kind of badge you can get, and I think it's important to recognize that not everything needs to be a credential and not everything needs to be a badge. Sometimes it can be telling a story. So there's scope for story bits in here, which basically give you the context and the backstory for what it is that's going on. And I think that while we've got places like LinkedIn, like people's profiles, like the CV and the resume, wrapping context around there is something that we don't do well enough. So being able to scaffold that learner journey, either by people pledging for it and saying this is something that I'd like to do, or retrospectively doing, saying that this is something I have already done, is of value, especially when it comes to employment. So I'm just going to kind of park that there. Yishai, before I dropped, asked me to define MOOCs. I think somebody already defined it, but having kind of followed people who are very much imbued in the connectivist learning landscape, Canadian educators like George Seaman, Stephen Downs, Dave Cormier, I really do hope for a return to much more of a community-focused, massive open online course structure. We've tried to do that with Mozilla. We have a webmaker training area. I didn't put a slide in there, but if you search for webmaker training, we're trying to do that on an ongoing basis, not having kind of MOOCs that have a start and end date, but having an ongoing kind of community feel to leveling up things around a kind of a loose course structure. So that's perhaps something we can explore as well. But I'll stop there because I know that we're over time already, and so apologies for my my late arrival. Cheers, Yishai.
Thank you. And I think, you know, connecting what Thomas said about people reporting that, you know, their achievements in MOOCs are something they do want to count, but also sort of having different levels of achievement, whether you've completed part of the MOOC, the whole MOOC, or put in that extra effort, combined with the badging infrastructure that Mozilla are developing that allows me to actually record and verify that. You know, there's a theme to pick up here, which is, you know, this offline kind of very sort of rigorous verification, and whether that ties in with Mozilla badges. But again, we'll maybe keep that for later. Shirley, would you like to go next and give, you know, all these things seem to kind of pose a challenge for the kind of more traditional academic world, or is it an opportunity? And so if you'd like to kind of give your views at this point.
Okay, thanks, Yishai. I take it you can hear me?
Well?
Yeah, yes, okay, great. Okay, yeah, so more traditional academic institution. University of Reading is a partner in FutureLearn. We're offering a wide portfolio of courses aimed both at people pre-undergraduates, but also at continuing professional development, so people in work looking to enhance their skills. We've just had a couple of definitions of MOOC, and let me add to it mine, because I think I disagree with Doug. So massive, I think, means more than thousands. I don't think it means tens or hundreds. Open to anyone who can access the internet, no charge. But you may run courses which recommend that you know something else. So this course is aimed at people who are already working as managers in some role in an organisation. Other people can come and take it, but it's aimed at those people. online, I think we're certain we know. But course, I think that one of the strengths of MOOCs is that the community go through the course together. I think leaving courses open afterwards is a good thing, people can catch up. But I think having the ability to be working through materials with other people is an important part of MOOCs. So I think that's something perhaps we can discuss later to know whether we're talking about the same sort of animals. Okay, at Reading, as I say, we've run different types of courses. We've run them with tens of thousands of people. We haven't got into the hundreds of thousands of people for one course yet, but that is potential. I think the big challenge is accreditation. I think the quality people here at our university see it as something that they're very, very nervous about. There are things, Coursera have their signature track, but ultimately you only know that it's the same person taking the assessment who took the course. You don't know that it's the person whose name it is you're putting onto that certificate. And I think that will always remain something that makes traditional universities nervous. We like to know that we're giving the degree certificate, which we would traditionally would have a graduation, to the same person who came and sat in the classes and sat in the exams. But I think this idea of completion, participation in a MOOC, evidencing what you have done is something that's very important, and I think that is where there is growth. I was surprised that there were a few people in answer to the earlier poll who didn't want to say, I've done a MOOC. Well, you might not want to say that you've done a MOOC in healthcare if you're applying for a job in software engineering. But if you're doing software engineering, then I think we would like to see that you're continuing to take courses which are related to that particular discipline. We're currently running a course on managing people, aimed at people who are already working as managers. And I picked up yesterday one of the participants in response to something that was part of the course, saying that he worked in a local council and that money is scarce, personal development of staff is a priority, but they always are trying to do it in-house because that's the cheap way of doing it. And he's saying that things like the Future Learn courses give so much more, and he can't understand why all local councils and all employers aren't saying to their staff, get out there, look at this free training. So that's an employer saying he thinks these things are good. And I guess that probably has covered all I want to say for now.
So I think the bottom line emphasis is, and that seems to coincide with the vibe we're getting from Coursera and Future Learn, that the trend is more towards continued professional development and less towards initial academic training. So you see the sort of the university and the MOOC systems working side by side.
Okay, can I just come back there? I didn't mean to imply it was just for continual professional development. I think that there is a role for pre-undergraduates, so people taking tasters of their course, and in the UK using the fact that they have taken that as something that they put on their UCAS statement. So I think for school children there is also potential for them to use it as evidence that they're a better person to get onto a degree course that's in demand. I think
yes, and the DFP just published a report last week about the role of MOOCs in secondary education, so that's definitely another trend to follow. I suggest we switch over to, first of all, welcome Oliver, who's joined us a bit late, but we're glad to have him here. But we'll switch first to Matea, represents iversity, so that will give us another perspective. Hi, Matthias.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, well, we hear you well.
Lovely.
Presentation, so you're good to go.
Yeah, well, the presentation is loading. Thanks for inviting us. There it is. We at Iversity, we are a MOOC platform, so I hope that I can share some interesting insights with you. So my name is Matthias Nellis. I'm an academic partnership manager at Iversity, and here on the slide you see what we do. We basically provide free education, and we try to make it count. And we're here to discuss sort of the latter. How do we make it count, and how do we improve employability? But let me start off with a brief insight on Iversity. The company was founded in 2000 earlier in 2011, but we really focused on MOOCs only in 2013. So we are 25 people. We are a Berlin startup. We started in October 2013 with 10 courses and about 115,000 users, and we currently have 35 courses and about 500,000 users, and the number of courses will rise to 100, and the number of users will rise to 1 million. So we are in the MOOC domain, the European, or the leader, I'd say one of the leaders in the MOOC sphere. So here you see, some of our partners on the university level or in the institutional level. But the main difference to Coursera, for instance, is that we cooperate with practically everyone who is a researcher, who comes from an academic institution, and who does want to do a qualitative MOOC. So we do not only focus on research brands. Let me then kick off the debate with describing very briefly the status quo. As we all know, there is a growing or the trend of growing costs in higher education in general. And secondly, there is a globally seen growing demand for education and training, and at the same time, there's an extremely fragmented online courseware market. So, and this is where MOOCs kicked in. They have been around, since 2008, but they really kicked in 2012, and since then, they have delivered free education with moderate to no formal recognition when they started. And here I just want to share 3 brief points with you, because there are numerous barriers. Shirley has mentioned one, but I want to share 3 others with you. So what are the barriers of recognition? First, there's the lack of knowledge about the content providers and courses. Second, there's the lack of transparency regarding institutional procedures and pedagogy and assessment. And there's a lack of trust in institutional quality systems. So this is something very general for the online course market. And now I want to share the 3 hypotheses with you. First, this is really what the study has shown that was conducted by the EU. MOOCs can be crucial to develop IT skills, but also different skills needed in the current labor market. But also we believe that the future of MOOCs depend on the accreditation and recognition. And third, and this is something that we might get into the debate later, I think improving the official recognition of MOOCs requires a joint approach, by all stakeholders, not only the EU, but also, from bottom up. We need a strong political support on a national as well as a European level. So now let me sort of conclude with Iversity's approach. So as I stated, we strongly believe in the fact that MOOCs can deliver academic knowledge, but also relevant skills, and also domain-specific skills, for instance, like HTML5, etc. So to improve the recognition and employability, we as Iversity, as a platform, as a MOOC platform, we focus on 3 things at the moment. We provide certificates with proctoring and verification solutions. I won't go into too many details at this point, but if you have questions about that, you can always ask me. It's pretty much the standard online proctoring that Coursera also does. Second, we try to allow for more transparency. How do we do that? We really offer for the paid certificates, we offer now what we call course supplements, sort of a document explaining what the learnings and the learning outcomes of the course, of the respective course, have been. So this is something that we're experimenting with the different types of certificates, but we've sensed that this is something that's really urgent for the users. Lastly, and this is why I'm glad that Oliver has joined us, we're offering MOOCs for ECTS credits. So this is very interesting, and we are focusing on that. We really try to get all our partners to offer ECTS credit MOOCs. And as of now, there's a technical, well, people have to be present to conduct the exam. So this is the big catch. But we are thinking that in various directions, offering the exam at test centers, etc. And I'm glad that Oliver can speak a little bit about his case. And yeah, let me finish. There is an ongoing debate in Europe about how do we actually improve recognition. There are numerous frameworks out there, and the EU has since 2013, I'd say, I highlighted that in the right corner, focused on really improving the skills and qualification accreditation. There is an ongoing debate about the framework. They are still conducting high-level talks and public consultations about that, but they're thinking on how to best develop that. And we are, as Iversity, are following that very closely. And I want to now conclude and thank you for your interest in posing two open questions. What do employers? Oh, can you actually bring that back again? Sorry. What do employers require to accept certificates? This is something that we are always, we talk to employers, but we're still interested in hearing, what do we have to do to make the certificates for the users more valuable. So we're interested in hearing that. And lastly, how do we create an efficient exchange between all the stakeholders? Because we know universities and MOOC providers and employers are some stakeholders, but not only the are not all. So we need to get them together. And how do we best and most effectively do that? Get them together and work on the recognition aspect. That's something that we're preoccupied with, and I hope that the debate will touch on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So we'll switch rapidly to Oliver. I think there's a very good link, because as you mentioned, Oliver's MOOC is run on iversity, and you mentioned that you work together with them on the accreditation. So quickly Oliver, and then finally Carol, and then we'll open up for the questions from the audience. Thank you, Oliver. Over to you.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you well and hear you.
Okay, so welcome everyone. My name is Oliver Wornberger from the University of Osnabrück. I'm teaching computer science, and in the last winter term I've produced a MOOC, Algorithmen und Datenstrukturen, that was in German. So it's about algorithms and data structures and programming in Java. And this MOOC is being broadcasted right now in the summer term on the platform iversity. So the MOOC consists of 14 chapters. Oh, so there is no animation in this in the slides I gave you? Oh, well, that's too bad.
Unfortunately, the animation doesn't pass through.
So there, I uploaded a PowerPoint file, and several of the slides have animations. So I noticed that all the animations can't be shown right now. So that's too bad. Okay, so the MOOC consists of 14 chapters. So each chapter is presented in 1 week, and a chapter consists of several units, and each unit has several video takes, and each video take may consist of either me talking in front of the camera, so speaking about the background, or I'm scribbling with a pencil on a tablet PC, or I am oh, that's really too bad. So that's the highlight of my presentation. So no animation here. So it's Java source code that is presented by PowerPoint in a typewriter modus, so that it looks like the teacher is just typing. Okay, so you can't see this right now. Okay, at the same time, either if I'm using the pen on the tablet or if I'm using the PowerPoint, there's a second camera that makes a record from my hand, and this hand is then combined with the capture of the either PowerPoint or of my tablet, so that the user can see the content of the slide and at the same time can see my hand and my finger moving. After a unit there is a multiple choice quiz, so where the participants can use the iversity platform to answer questions that are related to the video content, and each week there is homework, and this homework is graded through peer reviewing, meaning that everybody who uploads a solution will get 5 solutions from his co-workers, and he has to comment on the solutions and he has to grade them. Okay, at the end of the course, again there is no animation, so at the end of the course there is either a proctored online exam where we get support by iversity, that the students can answer, here it is, that the students can answer questions and it is graded by software, and there is a written exam at the University of Osnabrück, and that is graded by our students who do the grading in the live lecture. And what is important is if the participant passes this exam, he will get a grade, he will get a certificate with 6 ECTS credits. So that's my 5 cents of advice.
So we're really shortly going to move over the questions from the, and we're already seeing some questions coming up from the audience. What we'll do is we'll switch off, since Carol doesn't have a presentation, we'll switch to the chat window now, so that while Carol gives us her perspective, the audience can already start throwing in their questions, and then we'll try to answer those. So Carol, I mean, you've heard all these presentations from people who are involved in producing or delivering MOOCs from different perspectives, or in accreditation, whether it's through ECTS or through Mozilla badges and so on. From a kind of, you're from a vibrant young startup, the kind of thing that we think, the kind of company that we hope will take Europe forward. How does all this look like from your perspective? Do you think that this would be a contribution in terms of the sort of workforce you're looking at? Do you think this is something that you would count on seriously when you're interviewing employers employees and so on?
Hi, can all of you hear me?
Yes, we hear.
Okay, yes. Thank you. All right. So yes, I'm Carol Chen, and just to kind of reintroduce myself, I work in a company, startup called Yolla, and we are making smartphones. Many of us were formerly from Nokia and from the MeeGo project, which is like based on open source components, and so the operating system running on our new smartphone is called Sailfish, which is based on MeeGo and many open source components. And I think there's actually some parallels that can be drawn from this MOOC and also open source community working together. It's a lot of learning through collaboration and the knowledge, I mean sharing of the knowledge in a kind of open and community based. I'm also a co-founder of a non-profit organization here in Finland that promotes, organizes and promotes activities surrounding open source and open platforms. And I think even though the my company and organization is based in Finland. We have members, we have employees all around the world. I think something like 20 different nationalities across 4 continents. So you know, sometimes when we find new people, a traditional degree, which is while important, sometimes may not tell us the full picture of what the person can offer, because you know, different universities have different standards. We are maybe unfamiliar with what's happening in Asia or Australia, and sometimes it's hard to compare or judge just based on something from a university. However, what in the open source kind of projects, what's good is a lot of times you can share, you can demonstrate your contributions. For example, sharing your code on GitHub, GitTorrents, and many of these platforms. And people in the community who have worked with you can also verify that you know you are capable of doing this, and you know, these are like real life projects that people have worked on, and in a way, I think if MOOC can, I was just through these discussions, I was thinking if we can somehow have some courses that work together with real life projects and really show, you know, because I think even in a normal courses, whether it's online or offline, that there's always this thing about how do you demonstrate abilities through projects and verify that you can apply what you learn. So there are many, not just of course technology. We're talking a lot about technology here, but just, you know, projects in the community that can be worked on together and maybe applied to make you know, more something, contribute to the MOOC to make it more verifiable, that hey, this is, you know, something that's concrete and substantial and tangible, maybe, that has been produced through working and learning together. So yeah, I'm actually very happy to I think I'm more of a learner here rather than a speaker, because I have been, you know, quite interested in this subject myself, even though I've been traditionally educated in a brick-and-mortar university in Texas almost 2 decades ago. But this has been, I think this is the where things are going from this point forward. People are all mostly online and from different parts of the world. There shouldn't be that much limitations about where and how you want to learn, but really what you want to learn and how to make that happen together.
I think that's a very interesting point you raise about, you know, learning in open source communities, because that brings in 2 elements that I think are quite weak in a lot of the MOOCs we see around today. One is the sort of the open-ended, project-based, practice-based learning, and in the survey we ran, and it's on the website, a lot of the participants in MOOCs said, well, what they really miss there is something that's more practice-based, more project-based. And obviously, I think, and it'll be interesting to hear from Matea and also from Thomas about how they think, you know, these kind of things can be incorporated into MOOC platforms. The other question is also the issue of community dynamics. And again, Doug mentioned the sort of the original MOOC vision from Canada, which was very strong, you know, the slogan of the community is the curriculum. So again, much less structured, sequential curriculum and more community-driven, like you see in open source communities. The other thing is, you know, the connection, this sort of, we're seeing a kind of a blurring and continuum between you know, very informal, unstructured learning experience into university structured experience, and both Shirley and Oliver commented on that, and there were some questions about, you know, again, sort of maybe adding more detail about relationships between MOOCs, ECTS, EQF, and university degrees and so on. So why don't we now perhaps, well, if any of the speakers want to comment on any of these issues that I mentioned, then we'll start it from there, and then we'll start going through some of the questions systematically. Matteo? Yeah?
Right. Right. If I may, there have been some questions regarding the ECTS, certificates. How do we do that? Is that even allowed? And is that sort of a trend for future MOOCs? I mean, in Europe especially. In America, we've seen quite a few 4-credit MOOCs coming now, and some institutions, very few in America, accept that. In Europe, we have an advantage of, we have the Bologna process, and in theory, if you are able to obtain ECTS credits, then it's as a student, right? And we're now speaking of students. It's easy for you as a student to get them recognized at your home institution. I mean, there are some conditions related to that. I mean, they have to match sort of your curriculum in a way. But yeah, so how iversity as a MOOC provider, we don't hand out ECTS. That's important to know. We are the platform provider, and people like Oliver and the universities who we partner with, they offer MOOCs as part of their accredited degrees, and through that they're allowed to offer ECTS credits for their exams, for their MOOCs. So, and like I mentioned very briefly in the intro, there is a big catch related to that yet, because you have to be present, physically present at this stage, at the end of the MOOC to take the exam. And this is sort of what the German law requires, because otherwise we're not quite sure that the person who actually registered for the course really does the exam at the end. So we can't overcome that problem. So we make them come to write an exam.
But,
and this is very
just to clarify, so the requirement for people to be physically present is derived from the German law. Right? It might be different in other countries. If other countries allow you to complete a university degree with online exams, then you could do that.
Right. Right. There have been examples, like it depends on national law. I won't go into the technical details here. I mean, there's some people who believe that handing out ECTS credits for online courses in Germany is fine as well, but the universities have so far been reluctant to hand out ECTS credits for online, online courses, because you're facing this big problem. You have a group of thousands of people who can potentially be awarded with ECTS credits. So you narrow it down, and you have a more controlled environment in an exam atmosphere at the end. So I think the future holds a potential for that to be overcome, so that students actually have to be present, physically present at one point. I'm not going to bother you with the details, but the first step is, for instance, to to offer sort of what TOEFL does, offer the students the possibility to go to any test center in any country, in any city. So this is sort of the second step. Or in second option is that it's not even required anymore, because we have technical possibilities to really measure, to really make sure that the student is the right one, like keystroke and online proctoring, etc. So that's on that.
Thomas, you wanted to also comment on this question?
Well, actually, I would like to comment on the project-based learning and the other learning activities that you mentioned earlier, and also on Shirley's comment in the beginning, where she said that the community is a very important factor in a MOOC, and that's for us as well. I didn't mention it in the beginning, but our MOOCs are always based on in a certain time frame, so that the people are really working together in this time. So they are working on the materials for 1 week during this 1 week, and then they switch on to the next week, and we really try to keep them focused on this topic, so that they are working together as a community and discuss the things on the discussion boards and all that stuff. Concerning the more practical or project-based approaches in learning, we are currently working on that, and we're currently implementing additional features such as practical programming exercises, for example, and practical security tests and stuff like that. So as they are fitting to the courses that we are offering. And we are also working on group work features, for example, so that students can, within these big courses, within this massive amount of users, that they can form smaller groups and work together in a more private atmosphere. Currently, we're doing this only on a voluntary basis, but we have also run some pilots with where they really got kind of group work assignments and stuff like that, just to address these 2 points. Thank you.
Thank you. Shirley, maybe you want to also say a bit about the practices of learning in your MOOCs in terms of of project work, of collaborative work. If you see any parallels with the kind of open source community dynamics that Carol mentioned earlier.
Okay, yeah. I was thinking as we were talking there, I'm a very big fan of the group going through together where possible. I think you have to make allowances that there'll always be reasons people slip behind. But for me, the really important thing is that it's lockstep. When we talk about project work, I perhaps should mention a project that we did with the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts, which is an umbrella organisation for national guiding bodies around the world. And they have some very fantastic training that they run for potential national leaders, but it's very, very expensive because traditionally they fly young women into centres in one of 4, 5, 6 places around the world, and they have to fly trainers in, and it becomes prohibitively expensive. But one of the things that they really did like with doing project work, and we did find that with careful stewarding and help, it's possible to get that project work of people working together. I'm not convinced that if we go for a true connectionist approach of leaving people to find each other, it would have worked in that international context of people with different languages. It needed, I think, nurturing. So I think getting good project work with teams is possible, but I don't think that it can work in all situations unless you have somebody who's there, who's able to steer people round, get them towards working together well. So I'm a big fan of lockstep, and I'm a big fan of making sure that there is some support so you don't end up with what happened to me. The first major online course I took, which must have been 15 years ago, we were all put into groups as we arrived, and like a lot of online courses, a lot of people dropped out, and I found myself in a group by myself, which wasn't the best way of doing group work. So I don't know whether that was what you wanted me to answer, but it's an answer.
Well, no, it's an interesting answer. I think it's a very good answer, actually, because it just shows us that, we are in the early days of this whole MOOC phenomena, but actually there's a very long history of online teaching and learning. So a lot of the problems we should be aware of, and we should try to learn both from formal online courses and informal communities such as open source communities. And there were a couple of questions on badges, so maybe we'll switch to you, Doug. One question about badges that are acquired very easily, and so you know, if you have a university degree, or if you have, even if you get, you know, 6 ECTS for a MOOC, there's a way of quantifying that achievement for good and for bad. How do you quantify badges? How do you aggregate badges to something that has a kind of a greater value? Maybe the Discover project that you mentioned is something in that direction. The other question was about badges and privacy issues. I'm not sure exactly what the details there are, but can you see any privacy issues with badges, and are there ways that you're dealing with those?
Yeah, I think I got most of those, and I think you put in the back channel the 2 questions that were mentioned before. So let me just say 2 things. Firstly, I'm not on the Open Badges team anymore because this has been taken outside of Mozilla. So if you want the absolute latest up-to-date information, then join one of the working groups, which is at badgealliance.org. But what I do know, and I'm still quite closely connected to that team, is that the learner is always in control of an open badge. So when a badge is issued to you and you decide to put it in your badge backpack, it is by default private. So nobody else can see it apart from you and when you're logged in. You can choose then to share it either as a collection of badges or as a single badge, and you can choose to put that and embed that wherever you decide to put it. The important thing about open badges, and I could spend a lot of time talking about it as I have done over the last couple of years, is that the value of open badges comes through either the name of the organization or the individual who's issued the badge, if that's a well-known organization, or through kind of the value of the metadata. So metadata is data about data. It's the kind of, you know, when you go to the library and you see the Dewey Decimal System, it's data which is added to something to make sense of the landscape. So with an open badge, when you click on it, it has metadata literally embedded inside it, inside the image, and those things include who issued it, it includes the criteria, evidence, those kinds of things. So it's one of those situations where even if you've, just like when you get someone's CV or resume, if you've never heard of the organization or the institution or whatever it is, often we take this on trust, whereas with an open badge you can click through and see the evidence. If someone's got a badge for public speaking, for example, you can click through and potentially see the evidence of that person doing that in practice. In fact, there was a wonderful example of someone using open badges in Canada for immigrants coming over from Asia whose language skills weren't necessarily fantastic, but were showing their skills through open badges, linking directly to the evidence of them doing electronic engineering. So there's huge value, I think, for showing what you know through badges, not just somebody stamping it and saying, yes, this person has done a proctor exam, but actually seeing in practice what this person can add to your company and what this person can add to your team or organization. So I hope that answers those 2 questions. I'm happy to answer any more you've got, although I could spend a lot of time talking about badges.
Okay, so there were some questions, and well, there was a question that was actually targeted at employers. Although we don't have a lot of speakers from commercial companies. We have Carol, and unfortunately Michelle had to leave. But maybe other people could also comment on that. Do you see scenarios where someone would get employed on the basis of MOOC achievements and other informal achievements, even if they don't have a degree? So I assume that if you need a cryptographic programmer or somebody to do sort of very complex signal processing, you'd want someone with a good university degree, but maybe for other positions you would take someone who can demonstrate their skills in some other way. Carol, I see you nodding, so I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I'll comment a little bit on this. And company, we do hire people based more on what they have done for the related open source projects, and more so than any kind of degree. We do have people without so-called the traditional degrees, or even myself as an example. I do have a master's in computer science, and I was a software engineer in Nokia But in YOLA, I'm actually doing more community development. I'm organizing developer events. I'm doing social media. So it's marketing and communications and all these coming together. So it's not, I don't have a degree in this, but because I have been doing this already while I was in Nokia, something similar, and people are aware that I have this other side besides the engineering side. So of course, if you know the people, they know what you can do. But if not, how do you represent this skills and knowledge in a form? And I think that's where maybe MOOC can come in and kind of give credit to certain things that you do outside of a traditional degree.
And Shirley, do you want to also comment on this?
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved in employment at all levels within the university, and you asked the question whether people would get employed on the evidence of MOOCs, and I would say, like all informal education, I wouldn't employ someone on the evidence of this, but I would use it to make a decision to interview someone, and then if in the interview they showed real evidence of understanding what they were claiming, then they would be eligible to be employed. So I think the question is wrong to say, would anyone employ just on the evidence of MOOCs? The answer has got to be no. Many employers that I have worked with are a little bit reluctant to employ just on the evidence of degrees. They want to run their own recruitment processes, they want to run their own tests, they want to run employment these days, certainly for students in sort of engineering discipline, takes a long time. And I think that employers will look at evidence of MOOCs, but they will want to test it out themselves. Okay, that was what I wanted to say.
Well, that's of course a very important point. We have to, you're right, of course, nobody employs you just on the basis of your CV, whether it has a degree or a badge or MOOC evidence, but being able to demonstrate that you've acquired some skills, that you've had some valuable learning experiences is something that contributes to at least getting to that interview. Now, what was it? Sorry. Oh yes. So there was a question about all this issue of accreditation, proctored exams, sit-in exams, and so on. That's sort of starting to breach the boundaries between MOOCs and formal university education. Seems to rely on having some accepted standards, right? And you mentioned that iversity and Coursera support proctored exams, but we don't know about other MOOC platforms such as MiradX, Fun, FutureLearn. On the other hand, there's questions about mobile learning and then different pedagogies and so on. So I wonder if well, first of all, Mattea, but also other speakers can comment on if you're seeing some sort of convergence to certain standards in the MOOC scene, both in terms of modes of delivery and in terms of modes of accreditation.
Right. So, first of all, the great thing about MOOCs or any online courses is that you can always go and see the quality of the lecture yourself. There is a huge degree of transparency in MOOCs, or an inherent degree of transparency in MOOCs in general, because they're always repeatedly offered, so the employers could really check out the MOOC in theory. But now regarding the quality standards is something that we are really concerned of at our university. But the great thing is, if you cooperate with academic institutions such as the University of Osnabrück or any university in Europe, you have the guarantee, the formal guarantee, that they produce academic content under required quality assurances. I mean, there are numerous quality assurance mechanisms in academia, and I think Oliver can talk about this much more detail than I can do. But it's easy to cooperate with already accredited academic partner institutions. And the quality that we have, the question that we have is, how do we go about it if if we cooperate in theory with companies who offer skills? Because there are yet no quality standards for training and skills learned through MOOCs. I mean, ECTS is one point, but the skills and the reference framework for that is another one. And the EU, like I've mentioned in the introduction, is working on a framework, but we don't know yet how it will be and how it will be accepted. So this is an open question.
You mentioned that you're in conversation with universities and with employers. Are you also trying to coordinate some standards with other MOOC providers? I mean, other platforms?
Right. Informally, yes, but there is no official stakeholder dialogue yet. But of course, we're interested in hearing how other MOOC providers, offer, their certificates. And for most of the European providers, the whole topic is relatively new. So, like you've mentioned, I don't know too much about FAN. I know Myriada and some other smaller platform providers. So there is informal dialogue going on, but no official, stakeholder dialogue to really guarantee same quality standards. This is something maybe for the future that we'll look into.
Yes, Thomas.
Yeah, we're actually currently also investigating this topic. So we are kind of evaluating what are the basic similarities between the different providers, and what we want to do in the near future is kind of proposing a sort of a micro standard. And we would definitely like to invite you, especially you at iversity, because we're basically neighbors, to maybe join us in these efforts and maybe talk about this, and maybe start it informally and just see where we can get it.
Okay, so we've actually managed to kick something off with this event. That's great. I'm aware of time. We'll have to wrap up shortly. So just want to say that in case anybody is wondering, this session has been recorded, is being recorded. We will also post a blog item with a summary of the main points that came up and the names of the projects and the links, and not just from the speakers, but I also see in the chat window that some of the participants have contributed some interesting pointers, so we'll obviously include those in the blog post. And finally, we'll have a space for online discussion. So if your question hasn't been addressed, or if you 5 minutes from now suddenly realize you forgot the most important question to ask, then we'll continue the discussion online. I hope that the speakers will also join us in that online discussion over the next few days, because I think it's a very interesting topic. Just to kind of close the session, I'd like to quickly go through all six of our speakers now, and ask you to, in 1 or 2 minutes, say what you think are the hot trends to follow in terms of what's coming up next, and what you see are the big open questions that we still need to address. So let's just go, start from Doug, and then Thomas, Oliver, Shirley, Carol, and Matteo. So Doug, over to you.
Yeah, no problem. I'm just dropping into the chat what I'm going to say for the benefit of people who use English as a second language. So, developments on the horizon. I'd love us to drop the term MOOC. It's really awful and clunky and unwieldy. I'd love it if someone came up with a better term, because I've seen, for example, people talk about open MOOCs when open is in the acronym anyway. It's what I would call unproductively ambiguous as a term. Another thing, I would say an open question is the extent to which industry and private providers are going to drive innovation in this area, and to the extent at which kind of slower moving institutions, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, things moving slower, like universities, like the tension between things moving fast and things moving slower but potentially more rigorously, and I think FutureLearn is promising moves there. And I've already put this in the chat, but I really do predict more talent spotting through MOOCs. You know, there's people who are in far-flung places who are likely to join MOOCs because they've got IQs of like 170, 180, whatever, but they just haven't got access to education. And they can be talent spotted, like plucked out their situation, developed, whatever. And so I see talent spotting as being a huge thing, and I put a link to a service that does that, not necessarily with MOOC providers at the moment. And that brings up the idea of how we're going to fund MOOCs. At the moment, it's kind of investor story time. You know, I'm going to provide everything for free, and there's no real understanding of where the money's going to come from. So I can see increased data mining of learners, and that being sold off, a bit like the Fitbit that I'm wearing tracks number of steps, and that can potentially be sold off to insurers. I can see the same thing happening with learner data through MOOCs, and there might be a backlash there. So I see the future as being bright for MOOCs in the sense that, you know, there's lots and lots of opportunity, but I think that the MOOC providers are going to have to be careful about backlash in terms of mining learner data. So
thank you, Thomas. You're next.
Okay, yeah, well, I think that kind of this informal style of MOOC certificates that we have now will be more and more at least extended with the other forms of more formal certificate styles, like with the proctored exams and also with the ECTS and all that stuff. I think that is something that's coming now. I also think that it's something that we have to be probably careful about, because it takes some of the easiness of the MOOC that we have now. So if yeah, you know, you just join it and then you get the certificate, and it's kind of a fun thing. And the more formal it gets, the more fun it loses. Kind of it has to. And I think we have to find a kind of a good balance in these things. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And Oliver, over to you. So what do you see as the sort of the hot trends to follow? What do you see as the big unanswered questions that we still need to figure out?
Well, I see two big problems. The one problem is that we have to install some kind of quality system when we offer MOOCs, because right now there is a huge variety that starts with people just sitting in front of the camera and talking about what comes to their mind, and then ranging up to a university course that ends with ECTS credits. So that's a huge bandwidth, and I think that it is difficult to keep this broad range. I think we have to define some kind of standard. The second problem I see is that the production of a good MOOC is much more complicated and takes more time than most people think. So we all have high expectations through our TV and movie experience, so we expect a rather nice presentation when we enroll in a MOOC, and I think that that is much too it is a lot of work for the people who produce the MOOC, and I don't see how who actually can afford this.
It actually ties in the question of quality with the question of the business models that Thomas and Doug have also commented on. Shirley, over to you. Again, what do you see as the exciting trends, and what do you see as the big challenges?
I think maybe both challenges. I agree with Doug about the acronym. I use it, I talk about MOOCs. I think the massive is scary to learners, and I think it makes my bosses ask me for big numbers. And so I think that perhaps the free courses and the fact that something that's free attracts a large number might be a better description for what we're talking about. The other thing that's in my mind, and we haven't really talked about it very much, is that the courses that exist are attracting graduates. They're not attracting necessarily the people who they're aimed for. I've heard the term leisure learners used elsewhere, and I think if we look at the courses that we run, occasionally I'll look through a set of posts on one course and I'll recognise a name, and there's somebody there who's registered on a lot of Reading courses, a lot of Future Learn courses, and they're obviously there for general interest. They're probably like me, they've got this silver colour hair, but they may not be working. I think that we're attracting a lot of learners like that, and I think it's great that there's facilities for them which have replaced a lot of things that we've lost in the UK of night classes and the like. But I think we've got to make sure that we also attract the audience who we're designing the courses for. So if we're doing a course that's aimed at CPD, we've got to be sure that we're actually attracting the people who it's aimed at are able to come for that course. If we're doing something on basic skills, are we actually reaching the young people that we want to learn these skills? So I think the big challenges for MOOCs is the name and making sure we're attracting the people that we're aiming our courses at. Oh, and dealing with the others who come, because why shouldn't we?
Dealing with what?
We've got to deal with the people. So if we design a course which is to teach, I don't know, basic programming skills to people who are going to go on to careers as web developers, if we also pick up people who are mature and already have programming skills but thought they might be quite interested in things to do with web development, they're not our main target audience, and so we should be serving them well, but we really got to make sure we get that target audience. I'm counting on my fingers, and my fingers aren't actually visible as I count. So it's being aware of the diverse audience.
Thank you. And Karen, over to you again as an observer. You said you see yourself more as a curious audience than an expert, but I think that's a valuable voice for us as well. So from what you've heard today, what do you see as a promise and the challenge going forward?
I think there's definitely a lot of promise in MOOCs, and you know, like I see myself, if I want to learn something new and further my knowledge, to enroll in MOOC courses or MOOCs. And I think the idea that you can be in any part of the world, any remote part, and still be able to participate in a MOOC is pretty powerful. And you know, like we would be willing also, for example, to hire someone with that skill set from a different part of the world, not just because they have a traditional kind of what do you call that, education from a traditional college, but also demonstrated through either an online course or online participation. So there's a lot of potential there, and in both learning and in being employable by different companies. Definitely the challenges already some mentioned, you know, like having is not a trivial thing to set up a good MOOC course, and you need probably, you know, good internet connection, and having the actual technology in place to distribute to such a wide audience. And also really, I think not just MOOCs, but also traditional courses in face-to-face courses. There's always this question about how do you make sure, how do you guarantee that what this person learned can be verified somehow. So I think that's probably an ongoing question, whether for MOOCs or in general education. So.
Thank you. So it's interesting to see the connection with what the previous speaker said. And finally, Matthias, your view on the hot trends and promises and challenges.
Right, I have the honor of concluding. Well, many of the challenges have been addressed. Let me try to speak from a platform or provider perspective. First of all, we as a platform try to provide education to as many people as possible, so and with as much fun as possible. So we do offer certification, but it's definitely not mandatory. And what we want to do is also to make learning more social and more enjoyable. So we are working on features such as group work features and more interactive features like chats. And this is something for the longer term. But our aim is to make the learning experience as enjoyable as possible. And I also want to say that the user or the data mining is something that we have felt is a big concern of European academia. And this is why we totally refrain from selling any data at all. So this is something really important, like intellectual and the user data is something that belongs to the users and the instructors. So that's at the heart of our understanding of how we do MOOCs. And lastly, to address two challenges. I mean, Oliver has said that doing a MOOC is an expensive endeavor and it's very time consuming. And I see the challenge that instructors don't get as much funding and as much time off from their university, from their employer, as they would need to do a great MOOC. So the funding and the time issue is important. And lastly, the quality. I mean, we have the operating mostly
only academic institute is a great degree of quality already, but MOOCs no quality whatsoever. So it means you can do a guitar MOOC or you can do a storytelling MOOC, you can do any MOOC. And the question is, do they have the academic quality? Do we need an academic quality for MOOCs? I believe some recognition framework, this is why I enjoyed talking today. Is it really, I got the sense that there is a thinking about how do we get the recognition of MOOCs? How can we improve that? And this is a topic that we'll be working on, and we'll be talking to some of the participants here in the webinar. So it was a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much. Yes, in fact, there were parts on the research report that get funded, but one of the main items there was setting a quality standards for MOOCs. But I just want to reiterate some of the points that were repeated by some of the speakers here, so that business models for MOOC and the chat on some of the ads, and Oliver said that he that MOOC would seem to take a lot of effort from him in his own spare time using the university recording studio, but I assume that that was in times when it wasn't needed by other sort of commercial initiatives. So there's an issue here in terms of the business model. Obviously, asking academics to produce high quality materials at certain times is not a sustainable model. Having universities invest tens of thousands of euro in a MOOC without seeing a clear return on that investment, again, is not a sustainable model. So that's something that definitely needs to be addressed. Likewise, the question of quality of MOOCs. And I think you said you work, Matteo, you work with academic institutions. I don't think that guarantees quality. The thing is that if you go into a classroom and you get a bad teaching experience, nobody knows. But it's online, then it's just out in the open, everyone can see. So in a way, on the other side, MOOC actually be a driver of higher quality education, even in formal education. Well, it definitely raised the question of quality, and now we need to address that. Data and big data, ever since MOOCs, well, not ever since MOOCs started the Canadian version, but if you look at Daphne Kohler's first TED Talk, they talk about big data and the extension of big data, and as we know, with great power comes great responsibility, right? So that issue of big data again is coming up as a very hot topic in education, both in practice, in research, and policy. We've been to an event recently with Javier Monet-Prats talking about the risks of data, talking about the risk of people being kind of put in a sort of minority report situation where your future is predetermined by what the data says about you. And finally, the issue of broadening participation and actually getting to the right target audience. And as Shirley noted, we still see that most MOOC participants are actually people who already have a degree, which is not surprising, because MOOCs are essentially a form of self-regulated learning. If you haven't been through formal education, you probably don't have the skills for self-regulate. I mean, not probably, but there's a risk, especially the kind of the audiences that we're talking about, more in the periphery, more in the sort of economically disadvantaged parts of Europe. People don't necessarily have those self-study skills, and maybe we need to think about how we support that. So that's another issue that we need to track as kind of a big research question. Finally, not so much research, but something that came up just through the chat, that a lot of people are asking sort of very basic questions about what is a MOOC and what are all these things we're talking about. We're already sort of quite familiar. We've been working in this area for a couple of years. We seem to assume that everybody knows what a MOOC is, but just go down to your local grocer and ask them if they've done a MOOC and get a response there. So there's definitely some work to be done in terms of awareness here, and of course in terms of getting the technology that would support the right this sort of rich type of learning experiences in the scales that we're talking about. So again, I'll just quickly flip to my presentation, where just so we have all the speakers together on one slide. Some of you have already had to leave, but again, I want to add to thank Doug Belshaw, Shirley Williams, Matthias Nels, Professor Oliver Wallberger, Thomas Taublitz, Carol Chen, Michel Bernard, for joining us today in what has been, for me at least, a very interesting and surprising session, and looking forward to seeing you all online. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And thanks, Yeshe, for sharing it so well.